saved, but you always give some money every month to be given to others. Now, there's no reason to wait. Give it right away so it doesn't accumulate. Then you should not give, it says under stress. I mean, I'm not sure. Giving due to stress. In other words, you create stress for the recipient. So if you create stress for the recipient, making him do things or her do things, making him or her do things that they don't want to do. Could also be like when you, what's the word? When there's specific, what's the word for it? You say, I can only do this if you do this for me. Kind of like conditions, you set certain conditions for you being generous.
Also, if you pressure yourself, you have to give if you don't.
Yeah, this anyway you shouldn't do. I mean, you should never do under stress, as in like, but that's already been mentioned, I guess. Like, make sure that you give joyfully, you give happily, to not put yourself under. But it doesn't mention that here. I mean, I guess you're right. It could be mentioned.
Pressure is only.
It mentions only the recipient, creating stress for the recipient. But, I mean, Sippy is right. We could also say, well, implied in that, we could say it also means not putting ourselves under stress. Of course, also very important. Okay, so giving under stress. One should not do any giving that do not accord with the teachings or the ways of the world. So certain things that are not acceptable in the world. I can't think of anything that is not acceptable in the world, but that from a Buddhist point of view would be acceptable. I can't think of something, I mean, throwing money at people. I mean, that's just from, it's not just, you don't need Buddhism to tell you this is not acceptable. It's like seen as rude to throw things at people.
But to buy things for the other, the world can think, oh, it's just a waste.
No, I'm
buy
saying
a lot of money for tanka.
No, I'm saying something that is not accepted in the world, but it's accepted from the point of view of the Dharma.
Yeah, this is what I said.
Something that is accepted in the world, but not.
No,
sorry.
the other way.
That is
if
not.
If I tell my family I want to buy a tanka, 1,000 shekels, they might say, oh, it's not, it's too much, it's not for, it's not acceptable by the world. Or to buy expensive thing for the altar, just to put on the altar,
Right. I mean, I'm thinking of something that is actually seen as rude in the world. I mean, that's, okay, that's just a waste of money.
You don't have to know about it.
No. But that's different.
No, but maybe if you give to Jewish believer a statue of the Buddha.
No. That's just about not making it known. That is true.
But
I'm just saying.
The meaning here is that not to do something that is not accepted to the world, that if the recipient is part of the world, not to offend him.
Yeah, that's how I understood it. And this is what Sippy, but what Sippy is saying I think is right. I mean, you can include this. I was just thinking something that is considered negative in the world. But it's something I'm just reminded, as Sippy was saying it, like talking about making offerings, like where we think, why don't we buy hospitals and so forth? You know, why don't we put the money into hospitals? Why to buy statues, for example, or build temples? Now, there's something that Geshe Thupten Pesang, I mentioned this before, that before I came, there was a teaching for 1 month, and he gave this, he kind of made this comment. He said, like in Nepal, he's actually from Nepal. He's not Tibetan. He is, I think maybe it's not Sherpa, but one of those Nepalis. No, one of the Nepalis who've come to Nepal hundreds of years ago, originally from Tibet, but that was like the Sherpas. So he says, like, many of the young people look down on the old people and say, why do you spend so much money on buying statues, on buying, you know, this and buying that? That's not okay. You should spend the money. So they criticize the older generation of Buddhists, and this would be maybe, you know, they are also Buddhists, but this could also be taken to, like, you know, people who do not follow Buddhism. So anyway, they criticize the older people and say, you spend all this money on statues. I mean, you could spend it for hospitals, for schools, etc. And then the old people, they responded by saying, well, okay, so what do you spend your money on? Do you spend your money on building schools, on building hospitals? Or do you spend your money on going to expensive restaurants, going out partying, on expensive clothes,
alcohol,
and then they're like, So therefore the old people responded, of course, we also spend our money on other things, but whatever we want to, what's extra, we want to spend on those things. Now, if you guys spend whatever is extra for you, what you need daily, like food and drink, and if extra, you don't spend on holidays and on doing this and this and this, but you spend it on schools and so forth, that's very admirable. Then we should do exactly what you do. But if you accuse us of buying it for statues, but you buy, and we don't go to expensive restaurants and do take expensive vacations, well then I think it's better to buy statues. And they saw reason in that. They said, yeah, that's true actually. So I think it depends. I mean, of course there's also a purpose for buying statues, for example, and buying these images. It's not about just a nice piece of tanka that's, hanging there. It's to be inspired. It's to be inspired. It's psychologically, if you see such an image, it may inspire you to be like the Buddha, to emulate the Buddha, to be like one, and that just maybe transforms other people's behavior by way of that reminder. So that needs to be said, that temples and so forth are helpful. It doesn't help people directly, but it may inspire people to transform their mind, and therefore it's a bit like, instead of giving one fisher a fish, you train many people how to fish for themselves, right? Or how, instead of giving fish to people, you train them how to look after themselves, that kind of idea. Dara, you wanted to say something?
I think that Lama Zopa has this project, some of them are huge,
Yeah.
build a huge stupa for everybody to see.
Yeah.
So it can raise a lot of criticism because it's very expensive. But I assume that he sees that the benefit is much
Greater? Yeah.
So
Okay. Yeah. Of course, we assume that, but that's when we have faith in someone like Lama Zopa Rinpoche. But when you don't have faith, then you need to give reason. You need to present a reason, I guess, right? Okay. Anyway, giving in terms of the teachings. So to not give in a way that does not accord with the Dharma or the ways of the world. Okay. So here, but to not give, that doesn't mean you don't buy statues. So that would not be included, because here you do give according to what is not accepted in the world, but that is just because of not understanding. But like saying things like throwing money at people, or you know what I mean. So in that case, it's different. So that's what I'm saying. I can't think of anything that you would say you cannot do it because it's not accepted in the world, but it's still accepted from the point of view of the Dharma.
Jewish not supposed to have religious Jewish status. So if I give the statue of the Buddha,
statue. Never mind, that's fine. Okay, yeah. So to give according to people's customs, right? I mean, like if I want to give something, all right, that's already kind of part of the Dharma, because it does say you should give, not upset people and so forth. So to give a statue to a person who is religious, Jewish religious person, so then again that would upset them. Yeah, so I guess that's a good example actually, though I would say it's still kind of from the point of view of Dharma true, but yeah. Okay, anyway, then one should not give, one should not first make a commitment to give something, but then to give less or of reduced quality, right? First you make a commitment to give, and you're like, that's a little too much. And you give less, or you've reduced quality, shouldn't do that. Then give in return for favors, expecting favors back. That's also important. I give to that person because they maybe help me. Okay, not a good attitude. Giving in installments when it's possible to give all at one time. Yeah, so first it was not giving right away, but giving in delays. So this means giving nothing in the beginning, only giving later. Here it means to not give little amounts when there's no reason for it. There could be a good reason, like you're generous with your children. You don't want to give them their allowance, a whole year allowance worth 1 year in 1 month because it's all spent, right? So that's different. To not give things that do not belong, obviously. It mentions kings giving away children. I mean, that's a little old-fashioned, I guess it's a little outdated, but I don't think there are any kings who give away children these days, but The point, of course, we know what that means. Do not give away something that doesn't belong to us. So like you're in a bank and you manage another person's money, to not give it away, of course,
Robin Hood.
obviously. Pardon?
Robin Hood.
Robin Hood, yeah, we should not be like Robin Hood, exactly. Yeah, even that is not seen as positive. To steal from some rich person and give it to the poor, no, not a good idea. Giving things that do not belong, yeah. Taking through pressure the things from one's parents, etc., and then give them away. You know, we want something really badly. Oh, please, Mom, can I have that vase? It's so pretty, it's so beautiful. And then you give it away. No, that's not, you know, you pressure them into giving it to you. Giving by a method that may hurt someone, of course. While remaining idle, employing someone else to give for no special purpose. We've already mentioned that. So to give some other person, we ourselves should practice giving. We should do it ourselves and not give someone else do it. Unless they're very stingy, and this is mentioned early on as a special means. If someone is very stingy and you want to get them to give, even your children, you know, they never want to share. So you give them your money and say, give to the beggar. And then they come back gleaming. That was great. And the next time, well, you got an extra shekel there, right? And so that way you get them to practice. But even people who have possessions, who are adults, then giving them part of your possessions and say, can you give this to others? And if it makes them feel good, it may inspire them to also give something, right? So that's a skillful means to inspire others to give, giving your possessions for them to give away. One should not give while having contempt or while intimidating the recipient. Of course, that makes sense. One should not give violating the Buddha's precepts. Okay. Again, giving to someone who has taken the Mahayana precepts, giving them food, giving them music to listen to, that violates their Mahayana precepts. On that day, when they take the precepts, they're not allowed to listen to music with attachment. It's very difficult to listen to music without attachment, especially if you haven't listened to for a while. Trust me, if I hear music, my mind goes whoop. So like, if I listen to music all the time, I think my attachment would be less. But right now, I hear music and I go, wow, it's very strong. It's interesting. So anyway, giving resources only a long time after they were acquired. So again, similar to before, not giving right away, but to store them. Why storing them? Is there any additional merit? There's no additional merit. So we shouldn't store it to give it away eventually. Just give it away right away. Okay. So that's like some of the things not to do. Okay. I don't see anything. I mean, we could meditate on this, but I don't really see. I guess it's kind of common sense. You read through it, and I don't think we would do that. How to give? Okay. So when we give with pleasure, smiling, treating everyone equally, showing respect. Give with one's own hand, without hurting someone and by bearing all the hardships. And instigating others to give even, to do what we've just described. So maybe that would be something we could spend a few moments to meditate on this. Spend some time on this, to just focus on how should we be giving, in the sense that visualize ourselves giving, visualize a situation when we usually give. So mentally, we've already done that. We did meditate on the recipient, etc., as lacking inherent existence. But right now, to visualize a situation in which we usually give, and to take to mind some of the aspects we've spoken of. Okay, so let's spend a few moments doing this. And again, as before, first, just concentrate on the breathing. As you breathe out, all your thoughts, past, present, future, all those go away. Just empty your mind so that you get ready for the analytical meditation. visualize a situation in which you give to someone. So before the giving, generate the motivation. May that act enable me to become enlightened, so that I be able to fulfill the most important goal, which is the enlightenment, the benefit of all sentient beings. So try to actually generate that motivation in your mental continuum. Visualize that you give away the actual thing. Whatever it is you're giving. Whatever it is that you're giving, so to have joy when you give it, to also give the best quality, to not hold anything back, to not give anything of inferior quality. Generate a sense of joy for having the opportunity to give away something precious, something valuable, in particular beneficial to others. With regard to your recipient, also think that even if they've harmed you in the past, even if they behave in an immoral way, or even if you think they're rich and they don't need anything, this should not hold you back from being generous. Generate a sense of equanimity. So that you're able to give indiscriminately. Lastly, generate a sense of gratitude towards the person who is the recipient of your generosity. To think how kind they are. To receive your gift. Receive your offering. So then, when Tsongkhapa speaks of the things to give, he mentions in particular what to be given. First, he mentions one part that's a brief explanation of the things which are and are not to be given, and then a detailed explanation of those things which are not to be given. So the brief explanation of the things which are and are not to be given, very brief. One should give things that create ideally short-term and long-term benefit. Okay. But it's also acceptable to give things that create short-term displeasure, but long-term benefit. Right? So short-term displeasure would be, for example, giving medicine that is bitter, like maybe giving, if someone needs chemotherapy, well, to offer that possibly to someone who can't afford it. So, of course, chemotherapy itself is unpleasant, has side effects. But if it's necessary to give that, or anything, or maybe giving a yoga class, it can be initially, painful, but then there's long-term benefit. That's again an example where there may be temporary displeasure, but long-term benefit. Okay. Or anything, anything, giving something where initially, like a doctor, for example, a teacher, you give education, it may be painful to go through it, it may be hard work, but nonetheless, there's long-term benefit. What you should not give is short-term pleasure, but long-term suffering, and of course not both. So that's a kind of hard and fast rule. It applies for everything in Buddhism. Yeah, so it's always like short-term benefit, long-term benefit, both, very good. Short-term harm, long-term benefit, also okay. The rest, not a good idea. All right, and then there's a detailed explanation, and it's not hard. It's again something we can go through quite quickly. A detailed explanation about inner things, which have to do with the body or parts of the body, which are and which are not to be given, and detailed explanation about outer things, external things, which are and are not to be given. So, first, an inappropriate, from the point of view of body or body parts, there is an inappropriate giving from the point of view of time, from the point of view of purpose, and from the point of view of the one who asks for something. What would be an inappropriate time or inappropriate giving from the point of view of time? If one gives away one's body before one has great compassion. So you should not give away your body before you have great compassion. They say it's best if you realize emptiness directly, because they say once you realize emptiness directly, giving your body when there's a good purpose for it, not just for any. It's not like you go to the zoo, you see a tiger, you see a starving tiger, and you give. I mean, not like that. I mean, it's a precious human body, so not to give away the body easily. But if you see a specific purpose for it, then you can give it away. But you should not do it before you have at least great compassion. Makes sense, doesn't it? The wish for all sentient beings to be happy. So not to give it away.
Why it's a time? It's a given time.
Time in the sense of like a certain period in time, because eventually everyone will generate great compassion. So before the time that I have generated great compassion, I should not give away my body. Right? Because eventually the time for everyone will be there. So time. Pardon? Before we are ready, exactly. So from the point of view of time, in the sense that before we've generated great compassion. Does that make sense?
I said not giving your time, not the rest of your time.
No, not giving your body. So it's like it's the outline says like not what is inappropriate from the point of view of giving. What is inappropriate giving from the point of view of time? Giving your body at an inappropriate time, at an inappropriate for an inappropriate purpose, etc. So when you have realized emptiness directly, they say it's like giving away a vegetable. To give away your body is the same as giving away a vegetable, because they say there's no longer pain. It's debated a little bit. I mean, in some texts it says there's no physical, there's no mental pain. It says it very clearly. Lama Tsongkhapa speaks of it in his text, Illuminating the Thought. Don't know whether I find it right away, but he speaks about this. He speaks about exactly this. He cites, for example, the Ratnavali, Lama Tsongkhapa, Nagarjuna's Ratnavali, or Precious Garland, where basically it says, so the person who's realized emptiness directly has no physical suffering, so how can he have mental pain? Through compassion he feels the world's pain, because of this he remains for long. So it's not like he has his own pain, but he's aware, he or she, a bodhisattva, he or she who's reached the path of seeing, they stay around for a long time because through their compassion they're aware of sentient beings, or they allow themselves to become aware of suffering, so they stay around for a long time. But it says they have no physical suffering, so how can they have mental suffering? Okay? There's also...
They control their rebirth also, right?
Pardon?
They control their rebirth then, or not yet?
They do control their rebirth, but even if they have just newly attained the path of seeing, they still have this limited body at that time, so they're not reborn yet after they've realized emptiness.